Thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Clark.
And I'm Kim Christensen. Tonight we learned several of the survivors and families of the victims in the Club Q shooting have filed lawsuits.
Lawsuits naming everybody from the shooter to the owners of the club to the El Paso County Sheriff, even the county commissioners. Tomorrow marks 2 years since the shooter attacked the crowd inside that LGBTQ club in the Springs. 5 people were killed: Ashley Paul, Daniel Aston, Derek Rump, Kelly Loving, and Raymond Vance. 17 others were hurt. The lawsuits were filed today by a dozen plaintiffs, including 3 people on behalf of lost loved ones. They don't just blame the shooter, who's now serving multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. They also blame what they call systemic failures, like the documented refusal by law enforcement to utilize Colorado's red flag law to seize the shooter's weapons, and a lack of security at the club. The lawsuits are seeking an unspecified amount in damages for those dozen plaintiffs. Turn to a live look from Breckenridge. This is up Peak 7 right now, where the snow is falling. All that wind today told us that we were in for a real change in the weather. There's cold coming, Kathy.
That's right. It's a fast-moving storm system, though, not like the 5-day snow and wind event that we saw a couple weeks ago. This thing's in and out in 24 hours. And the wind's letting up in some areas, but to the north and west, it's very gusty out there and turning colder as this mountain storm continues to blow in, producing some widespread snow showers over about 7,000 feet. And we're looking at temperatures coming down. We're now down to 36 in Denver, 27 in Kremling, and 24 in Steamboat. Look how gusty it is to the north of us. There are advisories for wind in Wyoming. Gusty winds over some of the higher passes mean those of you traveling late tonight on I-70 will be running into snow and blowing snow. We're in between 2 storms, one over Omaha and the next one coming in from Salt Lake City. And the snow is starting to fill in on the radar. It will kind of continue in coverage and intensity overnight. Lower elevations stay dry, but we could have a wave of snow showers in Denver between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. tomorrow. And while we're not looking at much in the way of any accumulation, timing of those snow showers could be impactful for the morning drive. So I'm going to talk much more about that with our full forecast coming up.
Students and staff at West Middle School rallied today against a proposal that would shut down their campus. It happened just days before the DPS board is scheduled to vote on the plan that would close 7 schools and restructure 3 others.
I have not seen a plan that says how they're going to support the current students in these schools that are being pushed into, nor are they talking about the resources to help those students that are being dispersed.
Tonight, more parents and people in Denver are putting the district on notice over that plan.
It's their first chance to give feedback in person to the superintendent's proposal since it came out a week and a half ago. 9 News reporter Rachel Krause is along now. Rachel, this meeting went for hours.
Yeah, and guys, there was hours of yelling and name calling. Some people calling the board members colonialists, others accusing the superintendent of gaslighting them about why these closures were on the table in the first place. They all want to see their schools saved. Dozens of speakers came forward today poking holes in Superintendent Dr. Alex Morero's plan to consolidate schools. The district has stressed that these closures are needed to address declining enrollment. The district's math shows the plan will save them about $30 million, with $23 million of that set to go right back to the schools. Many came forward to push for Palmer to stay open, including 3rd grader Quinn Summers.
We have the best teacher and the best school. Our school is like a big family. Please don't make me go to another school without my friends.
Others say the plans to shut down schools in the Southwest region will deeply impact Denver's Latino communities, forcing kids to be bused far away from their neighborhoods. Advocates like Elizabeth Borciaga say the district's enrollment data doesn't show a problem for DPS, and she says the way the superintendent announced the closures kept communities in the dark.
Enrollment is up. So what is a real agenda that DPS has? Why are you trying to misplace our kids, especially our Spanish-speaking kids? Shame on you all. We had to go to the schools in the morning and people were finding out. A lot of our Spanish-speaking community members were crying. Shame on you all that we had to do that job.
Many here stressed how rushed this process has been and how they feel the data used by the district has been misleading, from how closures will impact DEI populations to the burden it will place on low-income families. They hope to see the board vote no on this closure plan this Thursday. Reporting live in Denver, Rachel Krause, 9 News.
Well, strong feelings there, Rachel, but any indication that's going to change anybody's minds?
It was hard to tell kind of watching the board earlier today, but right now it's hard to say if they will be voting yes or no.
Yeah, they've been talking about these closures for a while now, so thank you.
The state health department says a chemist there was faking water quality tests. They discovered the problem early this year, but chose not to tell the public. CDPHE says a manager started looking into a chemist's work in February. They found what they called intentional disregard for protocol around a test that looks for traces of metals like copper, chromium, and barium in drinking water. By April, the EPA noted the state still hadn't determined the scope of the problem and that they had no plan to notify the public water systems that may have been impacted. We got in touch with Mark Edwards, a civil engineering professor at Virginia Tech. He helped uncover the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, where the public drinking system was contaminated with lead. He says there's really no way to tell if the old tests were accurate.
One of the tragedies here is we really don't know. I mean, did the people who submit those samples get told their water was safe when it wasn't? In which case it could cause an acute health risk, or maybe these errors are inconsequential.
The state health department told us they do not see any evidence of an acute risk to public health. They noted that the problem impacts about 3% of Colorado's public water systems. But they told the EPA they found the problems in data dating back 5 years and originally noticed issues in June of 2022, but didn't do anything about it. The EPA says they've been told this impacted 69 of the state's 2,000 or so water districts. It does include some schools. We have a link to the full list in this story on 9news.com.
A man now faces charges connected to a shooting at a temp agency in Denver that left 4 men hospitalized, including an employee. Police arrested 27-year-old Joshua Grays in Greenwood Village today. They say he opened fire outside the Labor Max staffing office on Leedsdale Drive near Quebec just before 6 this morning. One of the men who was shot is in critical condition. The other 3 are expected to survive. According to an arrest affidavit, the shooting suspect was upset about not getting work. Grays now faces charges, including attempted first-degree murder. CU Boulder will pay $4.5 million to settle a lawsuit claiming pay discrimination. A review the university conducted in 2021 found nearly 400 female faculty members were paid less than male staff members in similar roles. That violates state law. CU gave those women raises but did not offer back pay. The settlement will give those women that back pay. CU denies any wrongdoing but sent us a statement reading in part, the university is committed to providing fair and equitable wages to all employees.
President-elect Donald Trump's pick for energy secretary is an oil and gas executive from Colorado who says that even though more people will die from heat-related causes due to climate change, that should be offset by fewer people dying from the cold as the world warms. Chris Wright is a vocal evangelist for fracking. His company, Liberty Energy, works in that sector. Trump called out his fracking expertise in the nomination. Wright has said that the well-established link between climate change and more extreme weather is, quote-unquote, fear-mongering. He's also said there is no climate crisis. And he shares Trump's goal of opening up federally protected lands for drilling.
The efforts of the current administration to make it harder to get a drilling permit or to get a pipeline or to drill on these lands, what does that do in effect? It just means we produce a little less oil and natural gas. It doesn't change demand at all. So it just pushes prices up.
Oil production in the U.S. is at a record high. It's higher than it was when President Trump was in office. So what's the problem?
It would be higher.
While Trump has called climate change a hoax, Wright acknowledges that burning fossil fuels is causing the Earth's temperature to rise. But he says the coming deaths from floods and droughts will be offset by a reduction in deaths due to extreme cold. Colorado's voters approved redirecting more tax dollars to law enforcement agencies. The legislature now decides how to make that ballot measure a reality.
9 News reporter Kelly Rinke is joining us now with a deeper look at the tough decisions lawmakers are going to have to make.
Kim and Kyle, law enforcement staffing across the country took a hit after the pandemic, and Colorado still has fewer police officers per capita than it did decades ago. That's according to data from FBI. Prop 130 doesn't say how soon state lawmakers would have to distribute this cash, but it comes at a time when the legislature is already facing financial problems.
If there's no questions on the introduction, we'll jump right in.
State lawmakers on the Joint Budget Committee have a tough job.
Have tightened the budget outlook for the current year and for next year.
They met this month to talk about some difficult decisions ahead.
We have to do this and we have to do that, and just making us more familiar with the budget.
It's Senator-elect Judy Amabile's first week on the committee. She's learning about the challenges she'll face next year. Forecasts have shown Colorado may need to cut around $900 million in spending or dip into reserves to balance the budget next year.
We have a deficit for the current year and then a much bigger hole for next year.
At the same time, Colorado voters approved a ballot measure that now requires lawmakers to find $350 million for local law enforcement. Prop 130 redirects those state funds to help retain, recruit, and train police officers. That could mean cuts in the state budget to cover the cost.
We're really going to be constrained, and to add this very large appropriation is going to be really hard.
Prop 130 didn't specify when lawmakers have to allocate the money.
If we elected to do that all in 1 year, we would have to dip into higher ed, K through 12, Medicaid.
It's up to the legislature to determine how quickly it's distributed.
We could decide to do it over 10 years, or we could delay implementation for a year or two.
No matter when lawmakers distribute funds, Senator Amabile says decisions to make money available won't be easy. Prop 130 also requires the state to provide a one-time $1 million death benefit to the family of each local law enforcement officer killed in the line of duty. That one-time benefit would be in addition to any benefits provided through the officer's pension. Kelly Rinke, 9 News.